Hello, welcome everybody. My name's Kathy Madison and I'll be the moderator for today's webinar. I'm going to go ahead and start right on time today. Normally we give people a chance to come in, but Radu has a lot he wants to cover, so we're going to get going. Again, I wanted to welcome you and just to remind you that this webinar series is sponsored by Comtech and CIDM. And if you don't know, they are one and the same. Comtech is the consulting company that was formed back in '78, and we provide all sorts of consulting services, including helping people with their DITA implementations, which you're all focused on today. We teach classes on that, which we'll see here in a second, as well as help people with information modeling and reuse strategies and their templates and their constraints and everything DITA we do as well. And of course, through our consulting organization, we started a member organization called CIDM, and that's the organization that provides networking opportunities for information development managers to meet and share ideas. Also, we offer online conferences, etc. So let me just do a little bit of introduction to both of those for the workshops. We have several, actually lots of online workshops that we just published today. So that's new. There for a while we just had one on our website, but now we have several. And because everybody is kind of cooped up, working from home, we have decided to offer some special discount pricing on the workshops. So maybe now's a good time to take one of our workshops. We have several that are DITA related and then also that aren't DITA related. We have an advanced reuse class for those that are already familiar with DITA, and all of these workshops are online that I'm talking about. We also have DITA basics, and we decided we're going to offer 2 sessions, one early in the morning so that maybe our European folks could participate, and then one later in the day for our folks on the West Coast and maybe even some Asia folks. We'll see how that all works out. So 2 sessions, you can choose early or late, and that's DITA basics and then DITA reuse. If you're already super familiar with DITA and are just attending because you'd love to hear Raju speak, then we have lots of workshops for you as well, including Agile for information development teams, and that's focusing on the Agile technique specifically for writers as opposed to software developers. And then we have a new hands-on workshop, even though it is online, for generating a content strategy. There's a workbook that you go through and you create a content strategy, ideally an enterprise-wise content strategy. And if you just wanted to focus on mobile and web content, we have a special class on that. And then our famous minimalism class is also back on the schedule. So we encourage you to go to our Comtech website and to see all of the workshops. Like I said, there's several more than we have listed here. And upcoming conferences, we have, yes, another online conference in July. That's our traditional ideas conference, and this time the theme is all about a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so we'll be talking about getting graphics and videos into your information content. And then I think most of you have heard, we did indeed postpone our DITA North America and Journeys conferences until September. And hopefully everything will be somewhat back to normal and you can attend live, but if you can't attend live, we're going to stream several of the tracks for those conferences. So we have a backup plan there. And if, because we pushed DITA North America and Journeys to the fall, we are going to go ahead and push the best practices to November, which was the time we normally had DITA Europe, and then DITA Europe we actually are going to postpone until February. So a little shift in our conference schedule. Again, we hope everybody can attend, and so far we've had all of our speakers say that they reconfirmed with us and plan on heading to Phoenix in September, which is great. And on the webinar side, we have a couple of webinars scheduled for the next couple months. One in particular I want to point out is the Following the Trends webinar. That's where we will be revealing the results of our annual survey that we've done with DCL. This is our 8th year of gathering data, so it'll be really nice to see if the trends are really coming through what people predicted several years ago of what they thought they would be doing now. to see if those have come through or not. And if you have not taken the trends survey, I encourage you to do that. There's been lots of emails that have been sent out, but I will make sure that it's up on the CIDM website for you to get to the link by the end of today. So we encourage you to do that. So I know I was trying to go as fast as I could, and I probably took a little much longer than I wanted to, but I do want to turn it over to Radu. And before I turn it over to Radu, I want to remind everybody that we are going to record this session, and we'll get that link out to you shortly after the webinar. And if you have any questions for Radu, please enter them in the questions dialog box, and I will field those at the end. Like I said, when I first started, if you were on the call, Radu has a lot of content. He plans to take the full hour and a half, so I hope you can stay for the whole time. And it's a pleasure to introduce Radu. He has been part of Synchrosoft from the beginning, working on the Oxygen product lines, several different ones that he'll be talking about today. And like I said, I'm pleased to have him here. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Radu.
Hello, everyone. Kathy, thanks for the introduction, and thanks Comtech for hosting this this presentation. I hope you can all see my desktop.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I cleaned up my desktop especially for this presentation because I had lots of files, and I don't know about you, but yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity to clean up my act. So moving up to this presentation, it's about setting up a small documentation project for a team of writers, and doing it with a docs as code philosophy, which means that technical writers can use the same or just about the same tools as engineers when working on the project. This technical documentation project is going to be based on DITA XML, and it's going to use for content management and workflow the GitHub platform. If you want to, I will just go through this article, and I will share the article with you because you may want to look at it on your side. So I will paste it in the chat box, the link to my blog post. So in this technical documentation project, we are going to use for content management and workflow, we are going to use GitHub. For editing, we're going to use the Oxygen XML Author tool for editing DITA content. As an optional tool, I'm going to show you the Oxygen Web Author, which is a tool for editing content from GitHub directly in a web browser. For reviewers, I'm going to show you maybe the Oxygen Content Fusion if time allows, which allows engineers and people who are not involved in the technical documentation writing process to give feedback. The publishing, we're initially going to publish the DITA content directly from the Oxygen XML application, and then we're going to look and see if we can automate the publishing system so that we can publish directly to an online server using technologies like Netlify. Netlify is a platform on which you can publish your website, using Gradle scripts to automate your content, and the Oxygen publishing engine to publish DITA content to various output sources. So I'm a Java developer by trade. I've been working for Oxygen in the past 10 years. In my opinion, the difference between technical writers and developers is that we write in different languages. I write in Java, you write in English. Your language is more flexible than mine, but at the end of the day, it's about communicating information. I communicate to the computer and you communicate to other people. This presentation is not about learning DITA. We're going to write some DITA content, but I'm not going through all the possibilities of reuse in DITA. As you see, Comtech has already a course for advanced DITA reuse. I also have an older blog post in which I cover various resources for learning DITA. So for project storage, we're going to use GitHub because even if you're a lone technical writer, or if you're working in a company which doesn't really support you with tools, you need some way to store your data content to a shared repository. You need to collaborate with all your colleagues and write content in the same place. As your project develops, you need to see the history for the resources and be able to revert various changes that you made, which might have broken things. For each resource, you may want to know who added what. Um, you will probably release new versions of your product, and for each release, you may want to tag your project and be able to make minor changes to the released version without modifying the content that you're writing for the next release. And of course, you need to communicate with others, with developers, with your own colleagues. So you need to maintain a list of issues in which you write the tasks that you want to accomplish for the day, and then you need to see those issues progress, and you need to have people review your work. So I sometimes I still see small teams using shared network drives for which don't offer any type of version control. So if somebody removes from the shared network drive files, they are removed from forever. You cannot revert them anymore to a previous state and so on. So it's a dangerous thing. So why not use a free GitHub account? GitHub exposes the Git um, version control system through a web interface. This blog post is not about learning Git. It's about learning very small parts of Git just to do your job. So I heard that a good book about learning Git is a book called Learn Git in a Month of Lunches, and you can find a link here. But we're not going to learn Git. We're just going to use Git to just to do our job. So you first need to create a GitHub account. And so you write your username, your email address, and so on. And I already have a GitHub account, so I will just use my regular account. And in that GitHub account, you can create a repository for your project. And I just pick a name for my repository. It will be created in my account. I set a description, and then I can choose if I want the repository to be public or private. If it's public, this means anybody can see the repository, and if it is private, only people who I assigned as being able to see the repository will be able to see the repository. So I would suggest you to use the private repository because you don't really want to share content with others while you're building the user's manual for the next version of your product. But I will choose the public one because it's just for demo. You can add the license to your project, but as you will usually choose a private project, you will probably not add a license or add a restrictive license to it. For public project, if you want to share the content with anybody else, you can use Apache 2.0 or something like this. So now I have my project. Actually, it's called a repository. So I have my repository, and I can upload content to it. So maybe I can drag and drop files here for the first time. And I have a data topic created on my desktop, and I can go and drag and drop it here, and add a commit message, and now my repository is not empty anymore. It has my first data topic. What can I do with this data topic? I can edit the topic, and I can see the history of changes on the topic, and this is the my first message. Or I can press the edit button and edit the DITA topic in the editor provided by GitHub, and commit. And now I have the topic updated here. Oxygen has a tool called the Oxygen Web Author, and I can use the Oxygen Web Author to connect to a Git repository and edit topics from the Git repository and in a visual manner. So I copy the repository location and I connect to it, and here I see my topic. I can also upload another file or create a new topic, but I'll just take my topic and edit it in a visual editing mode. Maybe add a new paragraph. I don't know, maybe add a table. Add some list items and so on. And once I'm done, I can commit to the repository, and I can either commit on a branch. I can push my change directly on the master branch, or commit on a new branch and start a pull request. But for now, I will push my changes directly to the master branch. And now the commit is successful. So if I refresh, I will see that the last commit was done with the web author. So the web author was used to visually edit the content. Usually, if you want to share your project with others inside an organization, you should create your own GitHub organization. And it goes like this. So I click this, I create a new GitHub organization. If I want to create an organization which allows me to have private projects, I need to pay $9 a month. And in my case, I would just use the organization for open source. And I will write the company name. And this organization needs to be unique in the entire set of GitHub organizations. And maybe write a contact email address. And in this case, I will write mine, but I can write some other, like support@oxygenxml.com. Maybe I will write the, okay. I will connect it to my personal account, but I can also connect it to a specific business. So now I can add people to my organization. I'm already added to the organization. I can add some more colleagues to it, and I can complete the setup, and I have this organization here. Why did I bother to create an organization? I did this because now in an organization I can create teams. So I can create a new team, like tech writers. And I can select a visibility for the team, and now I can add new members to the tech writers team. So I can select a colleague, like I can maybe select my colleague Alex and invite him to join my team. And once I have this team, I can go to the team, and in the settings, I can assign various various rights, access rights to the repositories. And then I can go to the web author, to my created repository, and then in the settings I can migrate my repository to I can transfer the ownership to my organization. So I type the repository name, I type the name of the new organization, and then I can transfer the ownership. This means that in the organization I should have my new repository. So now I have the new repository in the organization, and I can define my teams and assign what teams can commit content to my repository. So I can go to settings, manage access, and then I can invite teams or people to connect to the repository, because right now I'm the only person who can push content to the repository. So I showed you how to create an organization, how to add a project to it. I showed you how to edit a topic directly in the Oxygen web author, directly in the web browser. But let's try to check out the project on your local disk and use Oxygen XML Editor to edit the content locally. So I have Oxygen XML Author, which is one of the products developed by Oxygen. And in Oxygen XML Author, I have installed a new add-on, and you can find the add-on in our default add-ons update site. It's called the Git add-on. So I have the Git add-on already installed. If I didn't have it, I could check it from here. As I have it installed, I can find a side view here called Git staging. And in this side view, I will clone the repository to my local copy. So I take the repository from here. I copy the repository location, paste it here, and I need to choose a destination, maybe on my desktop, in the user's guide folder. And I have checked out the repository locally. So I can, if I go to the desktop, I can see my first topic here. And I have here a copy, an exact copy of the repository. Moving on, I will create a new Oxygen project directly in the repository root. So I go to desktop users guide and I create my new project here. So now I can see from Oxygen, I can see my first topic. I can open it in Oxygen. I can add changes to it, add a new paragraph. And the Git staging view will show me the changes that I made relative to my current repository. So I can visually see that I changed something in the topic. I can see that the Oxygen project has been created, and it's a small XML file. So what I will usually do is to stage all my changes, write a small commit message. And commit my changes. And this means that my changes are now committed in the local repository. They are not on the remote site. So if I refresh the remote site, I still got the commit from the web author. So I can work all day with my local repository. I can make changes, commit. Nothing will go on the remote repository until I press the push button on the toolbar. Once I press, so I can make additional changes. Commit again. And now I have two changes that I can push to the remote location. I press the push button, and now my local repository is perfectly synchronized with the remote repository. So I can see here that the user guide project appeared. I can see in the list of changes, I can see the last change in the file, in the topic. Somebody else can take the changes and pull them on their side. If, for example, somebody else makes changes to the topic, let's say I want to make a change directly in GitHub, and I make a change here, an update. My Git project at some point will refresh and will show me that I'm one change behind the remote location. So I can pull my change from the remote location. Now let's add some content to our users guide. What is a DITA project without a DITA map? So I will create a new DITA map. And I have it here. Immediately the Git staging shows me that I have one resource which is not in my local repository, but I will commit it later. I will add some topics here, fast create new topics. Maybe, so add an installation, install Windows installation. I'm just defining the names, Linux installation. Maybe getting started, maybe an uninstall procedure, and so on. So I create all these topics here using the fast create mechanism. They are small topics, and now I can go to the Git staging and I can see all my topics here. I can select them all, stage, add in more topics, commit, and then push. So what I'm mostly doing is that I'm committing to the local repository and then I'm quickly pushing to the master repository locating on GitHub. But I could do also, I could work all day offline and then push all my changes remotely, maybe at the end of my work day. What else can you do? You can, let's say for the first topic here, if I make a change to it, you can go to the Git staging area and say show history, and then you can see a history of all changes made to the resource. So you can get content from that change or compare two versions and see what changes were made in a particular version in the history. If you want, you can also discard the resource. Maybe you don't want to commit it anymore, or you can say show blame, and you can see on every line in the file, like for example, the table was added in the commit called commit with web author. The title was changed in the added changes to the topics, commit, and so on. Um, so as a simplified procedure, every time you start Oxygen, you can use the pull toolbar to pull all your changes from the Git staging view locally. So I start Oxygen, I use the pull toolbar and pull all the remote changes. Then I start working. I commit to the local repository, and I usually push the content as frequently as possible to the remote repository so that other people working on the same repository can see my content. Um, let's add some more content to our DITA project. So we have the topics. Maybe add some images. So I'm adding an images folder. I think I have some images here, so I just select these images and paste them into the images folder. And now the data map is like the table of contents of the publication. So it has references to the topics. These topics may refer to each other using links. I'm just using drag and drop to add links between various topics. I can add image references just by drag and dropping images in each topic, just to add some content to my files. I can add also some reusable content. So I can define a new key called product with the name web app. Maybe web app is not the name of my product. So once I define this key here, I can go to the data reusable components side view, and I can see the key here, and then I can use it anywhere in my documentation just by drag and dropping. So in any topic, I can drag and drop, and I insert this key here. The key is like a pointer to the text. So if I change the text, I can change it from here, and maybe I change it to web app 2, click OK, and now all the references to the key have changed. So anytime you want to have variable content, like maybe the name of your product is modified quite often, maybe you do not really know how to name various things, you create these keys for them. You say append child key definition with keyword, create these keys, and then refer to the keys in the project, and then you can edit the keys in the data map and have the keys, the references automatically changed in the topic. But maybe I want to reuse some more content. Maybe I want to reuse notes. So I will create a reusables folder in my publication, and in the reusable folder, I can create a reusables data topic. And this topic will not appear as it is directly in the published output. It will just contain various components like this note, like avoid removing the resources from disk. And maybe it's a note which is it's a danger note. So I'm using the edit attributes here to set a type to the note of type danger. And then I also edit the attributes and set an ID to the note. And once I have this note here, I can triple click to select it, copy, and then I can go to my various topics and maybe insert new paragraphs and say paste special, paste as content reference. And now I have, I'm just reusing the same element in my topics. And of course, the good thing about content reuse is that these are just pointers. So if you look in the XML content, it's just a pointer to the element. is not editable. If I want to edit here, I can say edit reference and add some content, save, and all my references have been updated to present the newly added content. So I have new changes in the project. I have these images here. My topics changed because I added some references to the product key, or because I added new content to them, like the image and the link reference and the note here. So I can commit again. So I can press commit, push, and then just to double check, my project has been updated. Moving on, I don't really like to have my topics on the first level in the project. I will just create a topics folder for them and move them here. But if I move them like this, the DITA map has references to the topics. So all these references will be broken because the references are to the topics relative to the DITA map. So what I'll do now is to enable the master file support in Oxygen, and I will say that my DITA map is a master file. And what happened is that now if I attempt to move my topics to the topics folder, Oxygen will automatically refresh all references so that they are valid in the project. So now I have all my topics in the topics folder. The Git staging has again been updated to reflect my changes in the local copy. How do I check that my project is valid? I can use the DITA map validator completeness check for this, and I can click the check here, and it goes through all the topics and makes sure that all the links are valid. So if, for example, I break a link on purpose, maybe I refer to a non-existing topic, besides the error being presented directly in the editing area, the validate and check for completeness will go through the entire project and present the error to me. And then I can maybe revert my error and validate again. Also, I may have links to external locations, like maybe I want to have a link to a website. And maybe it's a broken link, or at some point it becomes a broken link. And with the validate and check for completeness, you can say include remote resources, and it will also find broken links to remote websites. So you should use this validation, this batch validation, to check if your project is fine, if that it doesn't have any broken links and so on. What else did I want to show you? Back to my, let's call it, slides. If you want, you have a topic. Let's say I have the Windows installation topic, or the Linux installation topic, and I want to see where this topic is reused. And I can say right click, search references, and I see all places where the topic is referenced. So it's referenced one in another topic and once in the DITA map. Or I go to the reusables and I want to see where my note is reused, and I can say right click, search references, and I can see all references to my reusable element. If I want to remove a topic from my documentation, I can say right click, remove from disk. And what this does is that it will avoid, it will abort the remove procedure if you still have references to this topic. So it says this topic is referenced in one more place. Do you want to review the references? So I can click yes. I can see the reference here. I can remove the reference. And then if I want, I can go ahead and remove the topic from disk. And then go to Git staging, stage all, and commit my changes to the remote server. And now the remote server, the remote repository has been updated, and it looks cleaner. It has the topics folder, the reusables, the images, and the user guide project and my DITA map. I wanted to show you also. So if I want, as I showed you, if I want to rename a topic, I just rename it in the project, and Oxygen will rename all the references to this project automatically. Sometimes you may have in a project unused content. Maybe you have unused images or unused topics. So you can go to the DITA Maps manager and say, find a reference resources, and it will find all resources which haven't been used from anywhere else. Like all these images that I didn't refer in my topics. So I can take all this reuse content and say remove from disk. And now I can commit my project in a in a state in which I do not have redundant resources which are not used anywhere. So commit again, push my changes. What else can you do with the DITA project? In time, your DITA project grows in complexity. You'll have more than more than 5 topics like I have here. You have 10, you will have 100 topics, 1,000. So sometimes you may want to find a topic which contains a certain text. And for this, we have the open find resource dialog. So I can either search in file path and maybe search for the installation topic, maybe searching content and search for getting started, and I can find the getting started topic. So if you want to search for content, you can either use open find resource, which has an index, making it very quick to use, and it reacts even with thousands of topics. You can just search and it will show you the matches, or use the find replacing files to locate text in topics belonging to your DITA project. With DITA, you can also profile content, meaning that you may want to produce user manuals for different types of people. So, for example, I can go and define profiling settings. Let me reset to default. So maybe I have the profiling attribute with audience, expert, and novice, and I define a profiling condition set for expert, meaning that I only want the expert audience to see certain types of content, and maybe I define one for novice, meaning that I only want novice users to see the content. So now I can go to a topic like the getting started. I can say edit properties, profiling, and I can profile it on the novice profiling set. And if I want, now I can switch between expert and novice, and I can see that the topic will be filtered out from the user's manual when I publish the project. So I can use these filters either at topic level, or maybe I can have a certain paragraph which should appear only for experts. and then I can triple click the paragraph, edit profiling attribute, select it as expert, and I see that it has a profiling attribute on it. And now when I change between expert and novice, the paragraph reacts and it's shown as faded out. I can also say hide the paragraph completely. But I usually work with the faded out approach because as a technical writer, I need to be aware of all the filters that I'm applying to my project in order to produce various variations of my documentation. So once I do this, I can again go and commit everything. Commit small changes, and these are now in my current repository, and I'm pushing them to the remote server. And now my changes are on the remote server. One of the problems, let's say, with using Git for version control is that you may encounter situations in which you have conflicts. So what is a conflict? This means that both you and one of your colleagues worked on the same topic. And let's try to emulate a conflict. So let me go to the remote repository, to the topics folder, Windows installation, and I will make a small change. I will pretend that I'm somebody else who made a change here. And I have committed the change directly to the remote repository. And as we can see, the Git staging shows me that I can pull the change, the remote change, but I will not do this. I will just make a change directly in this paragraph. So right now I've changed this topic, and it's also changed on the remote repository. So what happens if I press the pull? It says, I'm sorry, you cannot pull anymore. You have uncommitted changes. So what can you do when you find this problem? You can you can either copy the topic on your desktop and then maybe discard the topic and pull the change and then compare it with the topic that you have on your desktop. But in my case, I will go ahead and instead of pulling, I will just commit my topic to the local repository. So I managed to commit my topic to the local repository, and now I have this situation in which I have outgoing changes and incoming changes. Can I push my outgoing changes? No, it seems that I cannot push because I need to pull first. So I pull the change, and in this case I've been lucky because the change was made to another part of the topic. So I was editing in the paragraph and my colleague was editing in the title. So the pull managed to automatically merge changes. So now I can just commit both changes to the repository. And now my changes are here. Both the change in the title and the change in the paragraph. But the worst scenario is that when both me and my colleague edit in the same element. So somebody edits the title here and commits it, and I also edit the title, local edited title, maybe add a new paragraph here, and again I commit, and I want to push, and again I cannot push because I need first to retrieve the changes from the remote location. But it's a successful pull with conflicts, and this means that a merging was done in the document which shows both these changes here. So I can see the incoming and the outgoing changes, but I can also say resolve conflict, opening compare editor, and now I can see that I added a new paragraph here and that my colleague has modified the title here. And maybe I can take the title from my colleague and leave the new paragraph in place, save. And now I have edited my change. I can um, mm, I can commit it locally again and push my changes to the server. So these were the worst case scenarios when somebody else writes in the same content as you do. And they were pretty easy to figure out, you know. So I showed you how to merge conflicts. But how can you share a common set of settings with your colleagues? Like uh, as I showed you, I defined profiling condition sets here for the expert and for the novice users manuals, and I want to share them with others. So I can switch this page to the project options and apply. Also, I usually go to the spell check preferences page and I enable the spell checker, and I assume that all my colleagues will want to work with the spell checker enabled. So what happens? I have saved content in the project, and I can see that the project XPR file has been modified. So if I commit this change to the remote repository, I can push them, and anybody who will use the same project as I do will use the same settings. They will have automatically spell check enabled. They will have the profiling. They use the same profiling values and condition sets as I do. You can use the project level settings on lots of Oxygen preference pages. Maybe you can share with others new file templates so that everybody uses the same new file templates when they create their topics. Or you can switch to project options, the save page, which says validate documents before save. Switch to project, okay, and then the Git staging will show the project as outgoing modified with my changes, save and commit to the remote repository. Working with branches. So as your user's manual grows and you have releases, you need to somehow tag those releases. And sometimes you need to go back to a certain release and make some small changes and republish that content. So you can create branches on GitHub. So I can create a branch for version maybe 1.0. So now I have this branch here. So what can I do with this branch? If I want to check out the branch, I go to Git staging, repository URL, and now I can check out the branch on my desktop and maybe to an user's guide 1.0 folder. And now I have all the content in the user guide 1.0 folder. I can switch to this new project that I have on my desktop. I can make changes to it. as if I'm working on the trunk. Maybe open the DITA map. I go to Git staging. I have the working copy selected here, stage. I have changes on branch, commit, and commit the changes. So right now my branch has an extra change on it, and if I go to master, the master is one commit behind the branch. So I can continue working on the master, or I can switch to the branch and make changes and commit. So I can have these parallel ways of working with various versions of my user's manual. With Git, you can also check out the branch directly in the same folder. I will not show you this. This cannot be done with the Git staging add-on, but you can use another Git client, a more evolved Git client like Source3 or Git Tower, or some other free Git client to check out all your versions in the same folder. But I'm quite happy with having two users manuals, two versions of the user's manual duplicated, each in its own folder and each with its own changes. If I want to add the changes both places, I can just copy resources from one part to the other, or use a more evolved Git mechanism to cherry pick the change from one version to another. So until now we haven't really established a workflow, because on a Git project I can create issues. So I can go and say I want to create an issue about working on the installation topic. And usually Git issues. So I have created this issue. I can add a label to it, like maybe it's a documentation issue. I can assign the issue to one of my colleagues, and my colleagues will get an automated email that somebody assigned the issue to them. Usually with an issue, you can just open and close it using Git. But if you want to have a more elaborate workflow, you can go to the Projects tab and create a project board for your project, for your repository. So I create a board, and I choose to create a Kanban board, the basic Kanban board. And here in this board,